And here we are. Okay, usually it's the 8 o'clock hour here in New Jersey in the green screen bunker. But today I had some issues. We had some issues with timing. Anyway, my name is John Peasy. Welcome to Peasy Plus One. I am supercharged, more than you know, to speak to this lovely lady today, Caroline Cory, because I've been on the email list for this film for over a year and couldn't wait for it to actually be finished and produced, and super excited to have her here. And we only have her for a short time. So rather than me even get into telling you anything about my day in life, I'd rather just bring her right in because I know I could sit here and talk to her for days over coffee. This is a very unique film, and I've watched it a couple of times, and I can't wait to delve in. So let me tell you first about our guest, who I'm very pleased to have. Caroline Cory is our guest tonight in PZ Plus One. She's a writer, a director, and producer, an award-winning filmmaker, as well, futurist and visionary author of the best-selling books on consciousness and energy medicine. She topped the charts of consciousness science and mystical literature. As a child throughout her life, Cory had numerous ESP and precognition experiences, which led her to become deeply connected to existential topics, the study of consciousness, and the mechanics of the universe, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. And she's also the founder of, I believe it's called Omnium Media, an entertainment media platform that tackles various thought-provoking topics on human conditions and the nature of reality, which is right up my reality alley. So with no further ado, let me welcome our guest, who I'm super excited to bring in tonight. Please welcome the lovely Caroline Cory. Here we go. There you go. Hey, Caroline.
Hi. I like your intro.
I'm doing the best I can.
I like it.
I'm more of a comic than a actual talk show host.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for coming in here. And I did watch your film a couple of times. As a matter of fact, the first half 2 or 3 times. And I love the guests that are in there. I love the thought-provoking content, as well as the way you presented it. And I have millions of questions for you. So before we even get started, this film, I guess there's a lot to speak about here. So I was thinking about this because the way to promote this is saying, imagine being able to see without your eyes, but with your mind, which is one of the things you've explored.
Right.
Being able to see the thoughts of others, which is the remote viewing portion.
Right.
Changing your pH in your body, healing yourself, and seeing others in different locations and time. That alone is just intriguing enough to me. So which way would you like to start off with going tonight? You tell me. I'm into all of it.
Any way you want. You know, this is like the story of my life. It's not a film. It's who I am. You know, I lived this my whole life. So whatever, you know, you want to talk about first, it's something I've been living, experiencing, talking about in my books and classes and now the film. So
Well, let's start from the beginning then. So I understand that you had an ability as a young child to, I guess, am I correct in saying speak to spirits, ghosts? I don't know what you like to call this organizing intelligence outside of ourselves.
it's not ghosts. It's so when I was 5 years old, I was there, and all of a sudden, I just saw this group of beings, and they started talking to me. They weren't like alien or anything like that. They were just the pure light, just light. And I realized that I could hear them, see them, sense them, understand everything about them. It was just a spontaneous communication. And they showed me how our consciousness were connected together and how the information was being transferred like from them to me and me to them as we were communicating. So I realized that that's what telepathy is. And they said, we're always connected. Everybody's always connected to their lineage, spiritual lineage, and that they were going to be with me the rest of my life. So that was my first experience that I think shaped everything, because it wasn't scary. It wasn't ghost. It's not like the Sixth Sense, you know. So because of that, I kept, open to the idea and kept asking the question, okay, well, wait, how did that happen? Like, what did my brain have to do to pick up and see this subtle energy that nobody else could see? And well, in the beginning, I thought everybody could see, so I didn't think it was anything special. But later, that's how I started asking the questions. And that's how I got into the field of consciousness, understanding that we are more, that it's all about consciousness, that we are consciousness in a body as opposed to the other way around, or other theories out there.
I've heard that said many times. I was a big fan years ago of Dr. Wayne Dyer. I remember him always talking about we're spiritual beings having a human experience as opposed to the other way around, which I always thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
So when you were a child, then obviously you thought that this was normal until you realized that other children weren't getting this information.
Yeah, I didn't, because it was very pleasant. It was very beautiful. Actually, it was very refreshing, because I was actually looking at the adults and thinking, what's wrong with them?
Right.
It's like there's all this fighting and all this strange behavior. And so when these beings showed up, it was like pure love. I was bathing in this amazing energy, so it felt so good and so familiar. And so that's why I didn't question it. I thought, oh, all the children do that, and so it was much later. That's why I kept it to myself, because I would have been embarrassed to say, hey, guess what, I saw these beings. Then they would all say, oh, we do too, all the time. Like, what are you talking about? So I just didn't say anything. But later, as I grew up, I was like, wait, people don't hear other people's thoughts. They don't. Sometimes I would see something, like, for example, somebody would come in and they would say, they have headaches or whatever. I would just look at them and I would know what the root cause is, what caused it. And then I would tell them. And so I realized that, wait, I knew, but they didn't know. This means that, and others didn't know, their husbands or whatever. So this means that I was doing things that others couldn't do. And gradually I started to ask.
So this information came into you as a knowing?
Both. I could first see. It was like, it's like a little video. Like, I could literally see the person having a trauma or something at a certain age. And I would know that that is the root cause, that is I could see the connection between that video I was watching and the headache or whatever problem they were having.
Just quickly, is this a film or a documentary? Would you consider this?
Oh, this is a documentary for sure.
Okay. And back to this childhood thing, is this ability any different than you would consider people like the Long Island medium on television, or a medium that speaks to spirits?
Yeah, well, on some level it is, but on a different level, on other levels, it's not at all because the way I see the energy, I it's not psychics get also visions, but and sometimes also a knowing, but for me, it's more I see the consciousness. It's like I see geometry and I see like how should I say the language, the information, and it's very very specific. So, for example, sometimes when people say I'm speaking to the dead, you know, to your grandfather, whatever.
Right.
So you, most of the time, the psychic themselves, they're not quite sure about the process. Like, am I see is the grandfather actually here? Is he like standing next to you? Or am I tapping into your consciousness and your memory of your grandfather, and that's how I'm getting information? Or am I tapping into him in another dimension? Or am I tapping into a piece of, you see what I mean? There are a
Yes.
lot of specificity of how consciousness works. And I feel like that's what I have come to kind of understand, like to really kind of decipher the discernment of exactly what's going on as opposed to, oh, I'm getting the vision.
Well, we're physical beings, and we see out of the eyeballs. By
Right.
seeing that way, we believe everything else has to be the same way. I love the idea of seeing geometry because the world seems to work. I mean, I'm big fans of some people that are brilliant mathematicians and things, and it seems like physics today is really the underlying belly of what we are about. And so I kind of get that on some level, but being physical, we think everything has to be in this compartmentalized box that we live in, which is not necessarily representative of reality, only on a certain small framed window view picture frame. Um, would you say that so I was listening to you earlier. Do your family have any of these abilities as well, or no? I guess not then.
I think I had a grandmother that I don't know very well, or great grandmother who I was told could see angels.
Oh, okay.
But that's about it that I know of. I mean, so also, like I said, I didn't really, it wasn't really a conversation that I had. And so I kind of like I did kind of did my own thing, you know. I was just in my own little world, just exploring all these things and not really sharing so much in terms of family or growing up. Yeah,
Oh, I think you were raised in Paris,
yeah.
Parisian. Um, so when it comes to I know this is a weird question. Um, when it comes to consciousness, could we all? I mean, I know there's been experiments where people all got together and meditated together and made things happen, like rain or less war. Is it possible that we all get together and use our conscious to cure something like the coronavirus?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point of this film. First of all, if you notice, it's not just a few people who do meditation, like, you know, or who are just mystics or, you know, yoga teachers or what have you, that can do this. Anybody can do this. That's the reason why I invited random folks. We went all around the world. We had people from all around the world, different ages, different cultures, doing all kinds of insane stuff. And also, we invited some recognizable names on purpose to show that anybody can do this. And what is this? This is using the power of your mind to literally change the physical reality, and not just as a concept like my physical reality, like my relationship or attract money. It just feels kind of like this concept abstract. I'm talking literally change the chemistry of your cells, literally change you know the molecular structure of your body. I mean, that is the type of interaction that I'm talking about between the mind consciousness and the physical world, your physical body. So if we know that, so the corona is a virus, so we know that viruses cannot survive in an alkaline body. So we can train ourselves, which is an experiment we did live on camera, which I've done many times.
Hmm.
We showed how the mind can literally change the acid alkaline balance in the water, all
Yeah,
just by focusing on it. So if we did that to water, why couldn't we do it to our bodies? And so if we did that, then the virus couldn't survive.
it's funny you mention this because last November I read the experiments done by Dr. Emoto with
Right.
and I love the water experiments. It's actually a visual representation of what happens in reality when intention is placed on it. And if people don't know what it is, you can look up Emoto online on YouTube. But I had done the experiment in my house with the jars of rice, uh,
Yes.
sending intentions of hate and love to rice. And matter of fact, it was in my um, not my living room, in my dining room for many months. My wife was like, "What are you doing? Get that dead rice out of my house." But I put them in there, and it was true. After I didn't give it as much attention as I should. I was really busy, but I went almost every day and hated some rice and loved some rice. And at the end of a month or two, the rice that with the hate did turn out to be yicky and black and full of growing bacteria and stuff. And the other rice was pretty much clean white, which
Incredible.
is amazing. So it really does. So attention does create reality. I understand the concept. I think people do. If you think about something all day long, you're trying to draw that into your life. Would it be good or bad? I get that. However, it's almost like in the physical world, it seems as if we live in like it's like walking through a pool. You can't run in the water or an ocean because it's heavy. Being physical is heavy. We're heavy as people. We have weight and inertia to us. So my question would be then, can you pull anything into your life as quickly as possible? It seems like if I'm in my 50s, as if I said I want to be president of the United States tomorrow, that's pretty unlikely. But if I really say I want a Mercedes, I could put enough intention in the universe to pull that in within the year. But maybe I can't become president tomorrow. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a matter of intention and reality base that you can draw so much or so little. Some things seems impossible. What do you think about that?
I think there's such thing as universal laws, and the universal laws have to do with the way you create your reality. And so every time you think, you put out a thought, you create a form of energy that starts to have a momentum in the world of probability. So if how often have you thought about being a president?
Not at all, especially now.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
So for you to now, so that energy has never been put out in the world, and the probability for that energy to have enough momentum to interact with the time-space continuum to eventually appear as a reality has 0.001 chance because you never thought about it. However, wanting to buy a Mercedes, you've already put out that energy for so long. I mean, the car or being whatever,
Whatever.
materially happy, whatever. So that is a thought that has already created a lot of momentum. So in your world of probability, getting a
Mhm.
Mercedes is going to happen instantaneously, whereas the other one wouldn't. So these are natural laws. Of course, nobody teaches us any of this in school.
Agreed.
And so your thought and is a form of energy. Einstein told us everything is energy. So are your thoughts and emotions. We don't know how to measure them quite yet, although we did that in the film. But so that if we were measuring these things, we would notice and realize that these are frequencies and types of energies that have momentum. And the way they interact with the time-space continuum is a whole long conversation we'll leave for next time. But at least
Yeah,
that makes sense, right?
it does make sense. I get what you're saying, and I see the logic in that as well. Speaking of which, way things work, the thing that really took me down this path the most was the double split experiment, which I've watched hundreds of times by so many different people over and over and over again. It kind of changed the way I see the world today. And for people that are not familiar with that double slit experiment rather,
Mhm.
um, when you view something, it's different than when you're not viewing it. And that realm. And how does that apply to what you're speaking about here? I mean, I know some people are looking at us right now saying, "What is he talking about?" If you're not familiar with it, but how does like something like double slit experiment actually um, apply to Superhuman, the Invisible Made Visible film?
Yeah, I mean, this is a super, super famous experiment that was done. It's at the base of quantum mechanics, but without complicating it, and just like in very simple terms. And also, there are different versions and varieties and
Yeah,
of the experiment. But the basic experiment is that you project photons, particles of light through a slit, and through a double slit. Let's just go there right
yeah,
away. And so normally when these photons are going through a slit, they land as two clusters of particles. You see like a lump here and a lump here of photons
yeah.
because it just got shot this way. However, they noticed that when there is, it's actually the other way around. But just to say,
It
when
actually becomes all over. It becomes straight lines, right? It's wave particle versus physical. Yeah,
if you have an observer, if you don't have if somebody's observing it, that's how it behaves. And if somebody's not observing it, meaning a person,
yes,
it goes into a diffraction pattern, a wave,
yeah.
completely different pattern. So the question is, why is it that when there's a person there, the particle behaves differently? So
Right.
it means that a person is doing something, is interacting with the particle to make it change its behavior. So that is hugely significant. Hello.
Hugely significant. And this was done in like 1920 something.
Yeah, 1920. I mean, yeah, hugely significant.
That leads you to the next area. Do you believe that we live in a simulated universe from your point of view after this film?
Yeah. So what happens is then you start to think that, wait, if I am affecting physical reality because I'm looking at it, I'm observing it every single time, does that mean I have control over it? Or is it already kind of a hologram? Even if I'm looking at it, it's still going to kind of have its algorithm, so to speak. And of course, me personally, there's no question in my mind that it's not somebody else's, like we're not inside a game, like somebody's like controlling,
Right.
because I'm able to change the outcome. Because how the way I choose, like otherwise unless that thing is inside my head, but if I say, well, I want the water to become alkaline, and it does, and I want the water to become acidic, and it does, it means that I am deciding. It's not the water. I mean, well,
Your intention.
my intention is deciding. If I was inside a game and the game says the water should never become alkaline just by thinking about it, whatever, or I decide when it becomes alkaline or acidic, then I am inside a game. Having said that,
the rules could be hidden. I mean, for instance, maybe there's a rule there that I will never become president. I mean, like maybe it's already written. It's already written. I understand where you're going with that, but when I say, do you believe that we live in a simulated universe? Because I don't believe it doesn't really apply to that on one level, because the people that believe in a simulation theory believe that as you walk through our physical life, through our eyeballs, and see everything in front of us, that it's being created for us like a video game, that it's being popped up. They said if you could turn your head around quickly enough, you would actually see it all falling apart, like it's being rendered as you progress through life, which is it's an insanely crazy concept. But is it possible? I don't know. I mean, from your perspective, what do you think?
Well, also there's something that I want to speak out of experience. Again, it's experience, so it's subjective, of course. Everybody has their own experience, so it is what it is. But to me, first of all, I did have this experience of the pixelation thing, but that still does not necessarily mean that it's a game. It is the way our visual spectrum, our visual system is able to pick up information. So if you're able to not fool it, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Go faster than it's possible that you could have that as an effect. To me, that's not a conclusion. That is something. It just means that that's how much you can register frames per second, so to speak, right?
I love the way you said as an effect.
Yeah, as
Because
an
everything
effect.
is
It's an effect.
an effect of, yeah.
Yeah, it's an effect. How do you know that it's because you are intending, or do you want it to be simulation, that if there's a little error, you think, it's a simulation? Not necessarily. Your visual system could have an error or not be efficient enough. So, but on another point,
Hmm.
also, this is my personal experience, is where I've had experiences with what I call divine intelligence. So
Yeah,
beings that are of a divine nature, in the sense that they're not human, or they're not like it's just a completely different type of intelligence. And I can see, and I have been with them and stuff, to see and know and understand how they can create a reality, and how and how everybody has this. It's kind of like integral to our ability to create reality. It's not like here they are creating a reality for us. It's not
okay.
this way. It's more like of a kind of a, they're on one end of the spectrum, we're on this end, and so we're kind of doing it together. And because of that, it's, to me, it's more of a spiritual divine nature and understanding that also has laws, mind
Of
you,
course, of
but
course.
not that it's a machine or it's a game or we're.
Okay. What do you say to the skeptics, Carolyn? When
I,
people
I,
feel
I like
skeptical?
skeptics. I think everybody should be a skeptic. I think everybody should question everything. I question everything. By the way, when I started having these experiences, like I would look at someone and I would see the problem, whatever, or what was going to happen. The first thing the next day to them or something, the first thing I would say to myself is, what if I made this up? What if,
Right,
what if I'm crazy? Like,
right.
what if this isn't true? What if I felt a huge sense of, I mean, like, so I questioned myself. I don't know what others do, but that's what I did. So I kept questioning myself, like, I can't just tell her that. What if it's not true? What if I made it up? What if I'm seeing things? What if I'm having vision? What if my brain doesn't work right? That's why I got into, in college, I went to study psychology, because you learn like all the,
With my work.
malfunctions of the brain. I was like, schizophrenia? No. Psychosis?
you,
No.
you want, you want to prove you're not nuts to yourself, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
I get you. I get you. Yeah.
yeah, because
I've had experiences too in my life where things something happened once for a week almost when I was on the road back in the late '80s, and it's unexplainable. And it
yeah,
it came in and left. It came and went really quickly. It was a really strange experience. So, and I don't know how to explain any of it anymore. But I understand what you're saying here. But why do you think it's taken us so long? Like, this film is great. Why do you think it's taken us so long to get to the point where we're now looking at our world and our lives in this different way? Why did it take so long?
programming.
So where's that coming from?
Programming, generation after generation after generation
Mhm.
of being told. Well, I mean, to me, it's even further back. I wrote that in my book, The Divine Plan. 230,000 years ago, there was a manipulation on a larger, species scale,
Mhm.
where I felt like the human brain is supposed to be in direct connection with the entire universe. And so I feel like at that time, there are beings that kind of said, well, wait, let's do an experiment. What if those little earthlings weren't able to connect, with what if their brains function differently?
Isn't that like running a simulation though? In a sense,
Exactly. Yeah, but it
essentially?
was
Yeah.
manipulation. But yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's more complex than that. I talk about
Mhm.
it. It has to do with the planetary grid that is the same, is coherent with the geometry of the brain. Anyway, long story short, they were able to change certain algorithm in the grid. And by doing that, you can think of the grid as our entry and exit point to the
Okay.
rest of the universe. So basically, if you change the algorithm and you block the entry exit points, then your brain can't go anywhere. It's like the receptors of your brain gets stuck, so they can only reach a certain frequency. And so
Hmm.
that's how the manipulation is. So you keep like looking or bounce, and you keep get bounced back to this this very, very limited spectrum of reality. So that's
I get what you're saying. I want to read your book now, but I get what you're saying. I really do.
So generation after generation after generation, you start to believe that this is all there is, that that you're not good enough because you can't reach beyond up to a certain point. You are doomed to failure. You start out as a failure. In fact, look at all our religion, like you're a sinner from the get-go or whatever.
Planet of limitations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after 200,000 years of, generations, what, when you tell people all of a sudden, no, that's not how it's supposed to be, it's going to take a little time, which I think
a lot of time.
I mean, it's like, whoa, but for people who have these experiences, who understand, we're saying, are you kidding me? This has been all along the way we were supposed to be,
But we weren't smart enough to understand our own abilities. We believe in our limits.
Yeah, exactly, because we were programmed. It's a programming.
Can you explain, because I was in your series, which I'd like to tell more people about, explain what coherence and resonance is?
Coherence is mathematical coherence. So it's like, let's say my brain waves are going in one phase, are like, let's say there's two waves. I don't know how to describe this in a simple way. Like,
yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my brain waves are, let's say, pulsating, are pulsating at the same rhythm with a larger wave. So it's like it's the same, they're going together. Even though one could be faster, but it's still coherent. Like this one is ×4. This one is, I'm not finding the right words. But
almost like a music you could get.
Exactly.
So, which is mathematical as well.
Exactly. So the two waves are coherent and they're going aligned with each other. Resonance is more about frequency also, but it's more like I am, let's say, in a state of being. So I'm resonant. I have a certain frequency, or emanating certain frequency, and so if you have that similar kind of, if you have that similar frequency, we were in resonance with each other as well.
Right. And by the way, you could see this in just the meeting people and in any conversation with people that you walk away from, like, oh, that doesn't feel right. This does feel right. That is resonance at that moment. It's awareness. And what about, how does the idea of entanglement relate to, or even not relate to the religions today, such as Judaism or Catholicism? How does this entanglement relate to these religions today? Do you have any opinion on that? I mean, I know it's a weird question.
Well, I don't really study too much religions, but I can tell you that entanglement has to do with, as you know, two particles at a distance share properties, but we think that's how minds are connected, because it's almost like if we're all tapped into the same container, if you will, unified field. So my mind and your mind and this guy's mind, we're all tapped into the same field. So I think in terms of religion, that's what explains telepathy or intuition. Like, right, you think of someone, they they call you or something. That's because you just picked up that signal. So but in terms of religion, I feel like entanglement is also a form of programming. It's almost like if I believe in this God according to this religion, and more people do, they're tapped into that same collective energy. So
do you have a religious belief or none?
Not in terms of like traditional religion. Even though I was raised, I grew up in a Catholic upbringing, and I went to a Catholic school for a while, but that's not like what I necessarily practice or, yeah.
What are your thoughts on synchronicity?
Yeah, same thing. It all has to do with the entanglement, principle, that if you are projecting a certain idea or a certain thought, like I want to find a job that helps me do this or whatever, and you are thinking, I want to find a person that has exactly those qualities, at the same time, again, within the world of probability, then more times than not, those two are going to find each other because of this entanglement. And we're going to say, oh my God, I was just thinking about this. And you'll be like, oh my God, I was just asking about this. So we think on this level, it's synchronicity, but on that level,
Right.
anything that's invisible, it's actually working perfectly according to laws.
I don't know how to even explain this, but years ago, very many years ago, I came up with this like silly analogy that is a way of life for me, and I know it works. I know it exists. I don't know how to explain it though. But long time ago, in my younger days, I remember whenever I would get an inspired, and I love that word inspired, but I would get inspired by an idea, either create something or think of something. How about if I did this, or how about I did that? If I didn't take advantage of it, it's almost like I always feel like there's a river above my head of information flowing like a river that's invisible, and that you get dropped something, and it's yours.
Yeah.
It's taking, if you will. And if you don't take advantage of it, it goes down the river. And then I noticed 6 months later, I was like, I thought of that. Look, it's out on television now. Somebody made it. And and this happened to me dozens and dozens of times. So I don't know how that explains anything that we're talking about, but I just thought it'd be interesting for you, because I don't understand how it seems as if there's information is flowing around and you're giving things to take advantage of. And if you don't, somebody else will. And it's simple as that. I don't know what you'd like to call that invisible.
Yeah, same thing like what we just said. So if I'm projecting, oh, I want this job, and you're thinking, oh, I want a person who can do this job, then we're going to find each other. But if I don't respond, like you just said, I'm not the only one.
Right.
It's going to be like 10 other people who are just as qualified as I am. And they're the ones who are going to respond. So of course, but that does not mean that I will not have another opportunity, because I've still projected that idea. It's still out there in the unified field. So I may have missed this opportunity, but eventually I will find another one, or you will hire another person, but it's not going to work out until I
come in.
Exactly. If it's meant to be that you hire me,
right.
You know what I mean? Then this, whatever's going to happen, it's going to, it's going to step away, and then I'm going to come back again at a later time, if that connection is part of both agreements.
Understood. And it makes sense to me.
Don't regret.
What do you think about time travel? Possible, not possible, considering your backdrop on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely, like 1000%, you can go you can go forward, back, sideways, and any way you want in terms of consciousness.
Okay.
So you can project your consciousness very accurately through the time grid, the time space, and go forward or back. Now, if you're asking about teleportation, where you're transporting your body in the future, which I don't know if that was your question. To me, this is a separate and different thing that requires technology, because you are transporting a physical matter, and physical matter is going to be subject to the physical world.
The laws of the right.
Yeah, so there's electromagnetic fields. There's like all kinds of stuff, debris and all kinds. So you have to maneuver to transport this body through time and space. That's one thing. Another way also, and that's, I think, it's the ultimate eventually ability, is for you to not use technology, but to master your physical body to a point where you can break down your cellular structure completely. So you literally break down your cells to a 0 point, so that you are dissolved basically as pure energy, and reposition yourself somewhere else and reconfigure yourself back again in that body at another location.
Do you think then we're spiritual beings?
Yes.
We are. You believe that?
Oh, 100%.
I
think in the future, that's the future human. Not quite yet, but eventually.
Yeah. In your film, there's a couple of guests. There's a couple of people in your film that I'm huge fans of. Dr. Dean Radin, one of them. I've watched millions of things from him. He's a terrific researcher. And also Tom Campbell, who had My Big Toe series, which was really mind-blowing kind of information to me as well. It's really interesting that I don't know if people realize this or not, but some of the people you have inside your film are top-notch physicists and scientists that are at the cutting edge of things
Yeah.
in reality. So when I mean, I really enjoyed the film. One of the things that I people don't know is that in the film you're showing people moving something with their mind. They go over and they move things in the mind. Now, I'm a magician and a mentalist and a comedian. I
Yeah.
can actually right now reproduce things for you that you
Yeah.
look at as magic.
Yeah.
Almost. Like,
Yeah.
but yet it's a trick. It's electronic, or it's manipulation, or
Yeah.
sleight of hand, or legerdemain, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So what when I see people doing things, the first thing I become skeptical.
Yeah.
When I see the people placing their hands on moving a tinfoil around the
Yeah. Yeah.
a toothpick
Yeah.
with their mind,
Yeah.
the first thing I think of is, well, if that is physically possible, that our minds, I'd love to try that. I've never done that. If that's physically and mentally possible, why can't we move a brick?
Exactly. So first of all, I want to address your question about the trick and the magic because it's very
Yeah.
real. But I also want to say, some people say, well, if you can reproduce it as a magic trick, it means it's not real. I don't agree. It just means that you can reproduce it. That's all it means.
Right.
So that's that. But the second
Okay.
thing is, I just taught a class, in fact, online. It's on the same website, superhumanfilm.com.
Okay.
Go to workshops and then you'll see telekinesis. And so what we do is, we put again, the stick and the foil, and you basically, I mean, it's a bit of a protocol. You don't just like go and do it. Just like
Right.
a magic trick, you have to know how. Well, the same thing. You have to kind of train your mind. You have to know how. You have to know when to pull back. You have to know so on and so forth. And so eventually you get the foil to rotate. Then we try it with a glass. Then we try it without touching it. Then we try it further away. Then we try it with double glass. So it's like you have to work your way up, to eventually be able to move the object along. In fact, I did it. Then we do it under vacuum, meaning there's no electromagnetic, no electricity, nothing inside the chamber. So all of this is possible. I've done it. Others have done it. It's in the film. So if your question is why can't we move? If we can move a foil, so you're working your way up. You start with the foil because it's very light, and you start with a pin because it's like you can rotate very easily, and gradually you make it thicker, bigger, then you move a piece of wood, then you move a piece of metal, and so on and so forth.
So yeah, it takes to move something. Like there was a guy that they mentioned in Florida who created something called Coral Castle, I believe, right? And it's all limestone. It's like millions of pounds, and people claimed he was telekinesis. He could move it with his mind because he did it at night when no one was looking. And I think it was a tribute to his wife who passed away, I believe, is what it was.
Yeah.
Coral Castle, and people were saying that he actually moved it with his mind. But these things are millions of pounds. I mean, not millions, but they're tons and tons of weight. I wonder if somebody could physically just take their hand and move, a ton of brick away. That would be so superhuman.
The same thing. I don't know where my spoons are, but I have like a bunch of spoons too. But it's the same thing. Like people think that you're going to look at a spoon and it's just going to like, and again, the same thing. First, you got to try it. First, you got to, kind of get used to what it's like. You got to bend it, first it bends because it kind of melts. So even though you're doing it with your hand, but you literally can feel it melting. So anyway, all this to say that with everything, you're working your way up. But at the end of the day, I really don't think that you can, move like a stone or something like that with your mind quite yet.
In this environment, in this
environment, in this spectrum, and with all these limitations, with the consciousness of the human that usually comes from ego, because part of the work the way I teach it is you have all kinds of stuff that comes up for you. Like, can I do this? Is this for real? Blah, blah. All this mind chatter is in the way of your signal. You
I have
can't.
a lot of bad mind chatter.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it's a lot. I mean, the amount of training and mastery to even move a piece of paper or to move a pen or something is one thing. But to move a rock, it's like you need the type of mastery. It's like
I'm laughing because I'm thinking
humans have a long ways to go,
long way to go. Yeah, I just have a hard time moving my body. Never mind moving things outside of at this point. Yeah, and by the way, before we run out of time here, because I'm at the 3/4 mark already, I want to bring on. So the man who books my shows is my talent booker. His name is John Galasso. He actually has a wonderful book, which I usually have right here, and I do not have it here right at the moment. We're all into humor. We love humor, just love humor. And John wants to, we talk about this stuff together all the time, and he like to ask you a question. So if you don't mind, I'm going to bring him up and have him ask you a quick question before we continue, if you don't mind. So
Sure.
this is my booker, John Galasso. Please welcome John Galasso. There you are.
Carolyn, how are you?
Hey, John, I'm surrounded by two John.
That was our intention. No, but first, I'd like to make a comment and then ask you a question. First, I'd just like to congratulate you on a wonderful movie. It was just, it's fantastic. We loved it. And on top of that, I just wanted to ask you a question. Believing that the mind heals the body, I suffer from vertigo, which I have for many years. And do you believe that I could actually use my mind to heal my problem that I've had that no doctor has been able to help me with?
Have you looked at your atlas?
Meaning
the vertebra, the first and second vertebra?
You mean in my neck?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I actually have a neck problem.
Aha.
Wow.
Okay, so here's, but let me answer one of your questions. Okay, so in your case, it's an actual structural problem. If it's an emotional problem, or I would tell you in 2 seconds, yes, you can do it. But sometimes if you're not trained, when it's an actual vertebra that needs to be popped or whatever, it's not that you can't. I'm just saying you probably aren't trained enough, or nobody is trained enough to be able to move an actual vertebra, like to reposition it. So I would say because of that, and in your case, I would say if you can find a upper cervical chiropractor, it's a specialty in chiropractic. It's not a like just any chiropractor, although any chiropractor would do certain things, but there are now very, very specialized. This is a specialized area, and they have like all kinds of things. They can know exactly the angle and like how it's shifted and stuff, and they can pop it back through a little it's a sound wave. You don't even there's no cracking, because I hate cracking. I was like,
Sure.
So yeah. So they just kind of push it back into position. And so I would suggest that you look into that already. But on top of it, I also see in your case that there is an attachment from your mother along your spine. Now that's energetic, and that you can do with your mind. So
Okay.
I answered you kind of in a long way, because I was specifically answering your question about your condition. So, but all this to say is, whatever people are struggling with, you have to know the root cause. If the root cause is energetic, emotional, and attachment, everybody's got attachments. Everybody. An attachment is an entity or an energy or a thought form that latches onto you. Everybody has something. So it
could be worse. It could be your mother-in-law attached to your back.
Exactly, right? So that all of this you can do, with your consciousness and the training in your mind. But when it starts to be something that's broken or something, I would say, for now, just that's how you can take care of it.
Well, maybe I could just follow up with that question. How about on a broader picture, not just speaking of myself, as far as the mind healing the body, such as like, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of like Norman Cousins or Norman Cousins, who believed that, that you could basically, almost any problem you can cure using the power of your mind. Do you believe in that also? Or
1000%. That's what the film is about.
no, but I mean, like there were people, there were people that, have like he had a debilitating disease that he overcome using the power of his mind. Like,
Yeah.
you believe that that's possible?
It's 100% possible. But again, at the same time, as you are doing things with your mind, you're also going to be guided to do certain things as well. For example, stop eating certain foods that are compromising your immune system. You know what I mean? Like, so we
Sure.
think it's just the mind. Yes, it is the mind,
But you have to use common sense.
but you're using no, the mind is guiding you to do the other adjustments on a chemical level. Does that make sense? So
It does.
so it is your mind, but it's is in combination with the guidance that it's giving you to complement the energetic with the chemistry.
I understand. Okay. Yeah, I mean that pretty much answers it, because I know there's been a lot of research about people who have focused on this, where they say, it's the mind, it's the mind can take power over the body in so many different ways.
And the mind can make you sick in 2 seconds. You can
Right.
have a heart attack because of your mind.
A lot of people in the middle of the pandemic are.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can do
Stress.
it in one direction, why couldn't you do it in the other direction?
Yeah, that
But-
clearly makes sense.
I mean, it's scientifically proven. All doctors tell us that stress makes you sick, literally. So why, if that's literally making your cells sick, why can't you use it to make yourself unsick? Does that make sense? That means that the mind has an effect on the cells. That's
John and I
proof
spoke
in itself.
John and I spoke about this all the time, and we came to the conclusion, though, that in order for any of this to work, you have to 100% believe that it's possible. Because John focuses on this all the time. He said, like, any of these things are only going to work. Like he told me today, he said, like with what I discussed with you with the vertigo and the neck, you have to believe it's going to happen for it to happen. And if you're a skeptic, it's not going to happen.
I agree, because sometimes I work on somebody and then I can see that they're shifting, but then I see that they shift back to the way they were because they can't accept that it's happening. And so I think you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how you
do.
that's how that in that sense I agree that it doesn't mean that you can't make them be well, but they'll probably revert back to that because they don't 100% believe in their own recovery. Again, that's why you always have to go back to the root cause.
I'm getting stymied now. I'm getting stymied because what John was just bringing up, and I understand what you're saying, and I believe what you're saying as well, but I just wanted to make this point about belief. I think there's two kinds of things. There's beliefs and there's knowings. So there's things that you know that happen and it's inevitable, and there's things that you believe that's a given to you. So when he mentioned to me today, he mentioned to me about believing, he goes, I don't know if Caroline could actually teach me to put a blindfold on and read. I don't believe that's possible. And I said, well, how would you even get trained to do it if you don't believe, if you're walking into it not believing, how could you? If you don't believe you could lift a weight, you'll never will. If you don't believe you could lose weight, you won't. If you don't believe you could drive a car, you'll get into an accident. You have to first have the belief in order to proceed forward to experience what you're projecting out to pull into your life. I kind of see that. It's almost a logical assumption. On the other hand, I wonder if a lot of people start off without the belief after going through some of the things that you're teaching, and then later on change their mind. I don't know if you know this or not. Right now, John's had a problem with his neck for a long time, and he told you about his ear, and you picked right up on the neck. To me, that's like fantastically amazing.
Because I just saw it. I can see the problem in the neck. So I told you, that's what I told you earlier. I see the subtle energy this way. And so so try that, but upper cervical, not just any chiropractor. But yeah, going back to the belief, absolutely. So, the blindfolds is very fascinating because when we just did a class online with kids, after 2 classes, they were able to read blindfolded.
So John could learn to read with a blindfold on.
I didn't wait. I'm not done.
Okay.
But then when it comes to adults,
Yes.
you tell them, okay, sit with the blindfold, do this, do that. And I'm telling you, the mind chatter, that's it. It's like it takes twice, 3 times, 4 times as long for an adult as it is for the child. Because the child, if you tell them, okay, what color do I have in my hand? Whatever. And they're blindfolded, right? They just do it. They just say it. But if I did that to the adult, you'll be like, wait, how am I supposed to see? I'm blindfolded. And you talk, and all of that interferes with your ability because you don't believe you can.
I see we're limited with time, so I'm going to step down. But what is the success rate?
Good question.
I'm a skeptic.
For kids, I don't know.
What would be the success rate on adults to be able to read with a blindfold
You
on?
have a future student here, is what he's telling you.
It's really it depends. Like sometimes, I don't know, maybe 60 to 80%.
Well, that's good percent.
Usually the people who at least are trying, have at least a minimum amount of belief on some level, at least subconsciously. But then you have to work through it.
I got it.
Some classes, most people do it.
Carolyn, you were very kind, and I appreciate talking with you. I'm going to drop down now because I know you guys are limited for time. But it was a pleasure talking to you, and good luck on the film.
Yeah, I'm going to help you with your mom there, but let me know how it goes with the upper cervical thing.
All right, and we're going to do whatever we can to promote this film. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, John. And by the way, John, I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong thing, Johnny. By the way, John has produced a wonderful DVD here. I have it here. And it's DVD and a book on how laughter is healing. I'm in this DVD as well as his book, and it's got a lot of doctors as well on it's justlaugh.org about how laughter heals the body. And it really does. As a comedian, I perform every day and make people laugh. And it is joyous. Not only do I get out of it almost as much joy as giving it. And it is definitely healing. I know we're short on time here, Carolyn. I would love to do this again too. And I'm amazed at the way you just poked right into his issue. And we didn't speak about this. We'd never met before. And you really just nailed him right on the head just now. That's freakish to me. I'm not calling you freaky. It's freakish to me that you pinpointed something immediately. So Superhuman, the film, The Invisible Made Real, is superhumanfilm.com. And we could all see that. And I'm going to give people your website here. This is superhumanthefilm.com. And also we could get you through, do I say this correct? omniumuniverse.com?
Yeah, omniumuniverse or carolinecory.com gets you here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the website for energy healing, for consciousness work, for all the stuff that we've been talking about, the training, increasing your guidance system, your abilities, expanding your awareness. This is carolinecory.com or Omnium Universe. But the film is superhumanfilm.com.
And this film will introduce people, because I've watched it, it'll introduce people to these concepts that we're speaking about, as well as ways of classes that you teach on consciousness.
So on superhumanfilm.com, you can go to the workshops and see the classes that you will see in the film, which is remote viewing, telekinesis, blindfold, those types of spoon bending, like mind over matter classes are on the website superhumanfilm.com. And on the other website is more general. So about mind, consciousness expansion, healing, a lot of healing. The methodology that I just been teaching for 20 years is on that other website.
I was a little bit skeptical in the beginning before I watched the film. I enjoyed it, and then I was still. But after speaking to you and seeing just even that ability right now with John, I am super impressed. And you are a delightful person to speak to. A definitely very light, easygoing person. I appreciate it, and I'd love to do it again any other time. I'm going to promote the film. We're going to put this up on YouTube as well as all other social medias, and I wish you lots of luck with this. And anytime you want to come back, I would love to deep dive even a lot further than we just did in this quick hour.
Definitely. Well, your questions were awesome, I thought. So thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. And let me know how you guys are, how John is doing, and then hopefully another time in the future.
John's a pain in the neck. Thank you, Carolyn. Have a wonderful night wherever you may be.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Stay well.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. And once again, it is Caroline Cory at omniumuniverse.com or superhumanfilm.com. And I also want to thank who you just met a moment ago, our talent booker, John Galasso, his site for Human That Heals at justlaugh.org. Please pick up that book. I am telling you, you'll really enjoy it. And please pick up Caroline Cory's wonderful DVD film. You could get it on Vimeo, and it's all different places. I watched it on actually Vimeo, but all many places that you can get it from. It's fascinating things in there showing you how the mind works. And it's got a great cast of people, scientists and therapists and physicists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the film right there. Superhuman, the Invisible Film. Thank you so much, guys. I hope to have her come back in the future. That was so much fun. Take care. See you guys soon. Like, subscribe, and please forward this to other people. Very important, because that pays the bills. Ciao for now.